Hey everyone, happy Thursday. It's Thursday. Man, we're just hopping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You know what tomorrow is? Not hump day, Friday. But welcome to Tech Strong Gang here for Thursday. We're glad to have you on here. We've got some interesting topics to discuss today as usual. A fair amount of AI thrown in with a little DevOps, a little security, and a whole bunch of money. Crazy money. We're going to talk about it with some great people, though. Let me introduce you to our gang lineup for today. They're all regulars. You've seen them here before. My friend Garima Bajpai, Teri Robinson, Guy Currier, John Swartz, and the Dean, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well as always.
Gang members, everybody ready? Let's rock and roll. So, Mike, I thought the NFL was the ultimate billionaires club.
Apparently not.
But apparently not. We're talking big money here.
Right. And I'm going to ask John to explain this, but at the core of this, in this week alone, Google and Meta and Core and Blackstone are all talking about multi-billion-dollar investments in data centers. And there's a lot of other folks building out data centers. And I guess my first question to John is, since you wrote this story over on TechStrong IT, is where the hell does all this money come from?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I guess, some of it's going to come from cost savings using AI eventually, or just getting rid of your employees. How about that? Why don't we just, it's like Microsoft laid off thousands of people and said, hey, we just saved $500 million. So yes, that's a very good question, Mike, because they're throwing these numbers out like monopoly money. And so again, we all have our doubts about what's actually going to happen. This is just kind of, we kind of take it at face value, but I'll just throw out some of the things. Evidently, a lot of these announcements were tied into an event at Carnegie Mellon University on Tuesday where Trump was there. The president of Google, Ruth Porat, was there. Blackstone was represented. CoreWeave made an announcement involving Pennsylvania. Almost all these announcements were around either Pennsylvania or Ohio. And so I'll just throw out some of the figures because it gets a little dizzying and confusing at times. Meta on Monday, Mark Zuckerberg talked about this on Facebook. He said they're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on building AI data centers in the US, including this first multi-gigawatt data center called Prometheus, which is going to open or come online in Ohio in 2026. Meta is jacking up its budget for AI data center projects to between $60 and $65 billion in 2025, which I found somewhat hard to believe, but that compares with 35 to 40 billion in 2024. That's part of their push for the super intelligence AI systems. Google is saying they're investing 25 billion in data centers in Pennsylvania and neighboring states over the next 2 years. They also have a side deal with Brookfield Asset Management for 20-year power purchase agreements totaling $3 billion. Then we have Blackstone. The private equity firm is going to inject $25 billion into data centers and power plants in Pennsylvania. And finally, with a mere $6 billion pittance, CoreWeave is going to build an AI data center also in Pennsylvania. So the numbers are staggering. They're kind of hard to believe, the overly aggressive timelines. But you're right, Mike. Where does this money come from? I guess it comes from their capital expenditures, which will be diverted to this area. I don't believe the numbers will be as high as the companies are telling us, but I think the intent is truly there. I mean, it's just rush essentially to build as fast as you can in order to train your AI. So there we have it. And I know we might talk about this later, but there are also, at the same time, we have to think about the repercussions of all these data centers going up, one of which from Facebook is going to be the size of Manhattan, evidently. We have to think about the environmental concerns. So
we don't think about that anymore. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Joe,
no.
baby, Joe.
Well, there is a story. There is a story on the BBC talking about how some woman is saying she can't drink the water anymore because the data center.
Yeah, that was a BBC story.
Hey, but here's my question. I got $20. What do I get with that? Can I get in on this AI thing? with $20. The amount of money we're talking about, they call that a prop in the business, by the way. The amount of money we're talking about here is just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Come on. But a couple of things. Number one, you got to give Zuck credit for using the sci-fi names. You know, there's Prometheus is this thing they're building in Ohio, but the one down in Louisiana, which is going to be bigger than Manhattan, is called Hyperon. One of my favorite books by Dan Simmons, by the way. But, you know, what's next, Dune? But the important thing is they're trying to build this stuff near where the energy producing is, right? So in Pennsylvania and Ohio, basically hydroelectric, liquid gas or natural gas plants they're building there. But, you know, nuclear is certainly an option. We're going to do all of this. But the fact of the matter is we don't have Foskett here to wave his flag, but it's still wind and solar. That's the fastest growing energy sources out here for us. You know, and that's what's going to be powering, they're talking about out in West Texas, San Angelo, right? Becoming the data center capital of the US even. So, you know, but you're right, John, there's a lot of political points being made. This was done in Pennsylvania. It wasn't just Trump, but the newly elected Republican senator of Pennsylvania was there. And, you know, this good old-fashioned pork. But the good news is they're getting the,
yeah. They threw out these staggering numbers, which of course we rarely believe, but it's a land grab, and it's kind of their placement or placeholder for manufacturing. We're building manufacturing, and people who live in those areas can't wait to get jobs.
Right? We're learning that they can't do manufacturing, and manufacturing doesn't necessarily even bring jobs. But this is the new manufacturing, if we could call it.
They pivoted to the new talking point as a new diversion.
Right.
But, you know, Meta is going to do a huge amount of work in this area. I mean, they're throwing money around like I said, monopoly money. They're trying to hire talent at an incredible speed. They're throwing out these ridiculous salaries.
But why? My question to you is why? I think because there we have a diversion. There's a fork in the road. Some of these guys are chasing, you know, the chalice, right? Some of them are chasing AGI, right? Or I always get the initials wrong.
Yeah, AGI,
right?
Artificial General Intelligence.
The singularity, if you will.
Our next misnomer, yes.
Right. So some of them are off, you know, chasing AGI and this, you know, the unattainable, you know, the sword, King Arthur's sword.
I'll say something really quick, then I'll get out of the way. You know, in a sense, what they're doing, they're doing the same. They're learning from their friend in DC. They're going from one diversion to another to try to kind of keep us guessing of us what they're going to do until they come up with another new project or new idea. I'm not saying they're not gonna consummate some of these, but I kind of see the same pattern.
You know, but not everyone is chasing AGI. Some of these people, I think, are chasing true AI factory data centers where the AI applications that we spend so much of our time talking about here will be housed, run, and you know, consumed from. And I quite frankly, I think that is less pie in the sky than chasing the AGI. You know, I think that is, to me, that's akin to laying dark fiber during the late 90s, early 2000s, right? We laid more fiber than we were going to use for 10 years. But eventually we did use the fiber.
So is this the same thing? Are we going to over-provision data centers and then it won't be dark?
I think so.
No.
No, you don't think so, Guy? Why not?
Well, I got to be honest, there's just way too many threads in this particular story. So there is something to what you say. There's a macroeconomic explanation for all of this. Mike asked John, where does this money come from? Where does it come from? These companies were sitting on piles of cash. for a very long time until AI came along. Zuck, in one sense, you think he just goes and spends whatever he wants to spend on anything, but he lives in a community. He's part of a community, he has a board, he has investors, he has people he wants to please. So that's part of what he's trying to do. So 5 years ago, he had all this money, but nowhere to spend it. That's what Larry Summers called secular stagnation. Meaning there's all this money, but none of it looks like a good investment. All of a sudden, AI looks like a good investment. So anybody Zuck wants to talk to can go around and brag about the cajillion dollars that they're spending to build out AI now. So he's got permission. So in that sense, I think you have a point, Alan, which is that they're just throwing money at something that finally looks like they can throw money at. Why I don't think it will be like dark fiber or unutilized is because there's tremendous demand, even if there's no real productive result, or I would say no, there's less productive result out of AI than people think, but there's still this huge cultural movement across, all of industry to invest in AI, because it just all looks like we're going to be able to fire people finally and just tell computers to do everything and they won't take days off and blah, blah, blah. So there is that level of demand, Alan. And
yeah, but Guy, go back to the late 90s when you were paying $1,500 a month for a T1 line at 1.53 megabits a second. And someone came by and said, hey, I could give you a T3 line at 45. You had a line around the corner for the T3 lines. And then someone said, screw that. I'll bring you fiber, MLPS or MPL or whatever it was, fiber.
MPLS, yeah.
MPLS fiber. Wow, this is nirvana.
Which is now dead, by the way. MPLS is as good as dead.
Yeah, but back then, it was driving, companies like Level 3 and the old, got bought by, they bought MCI, WorldCom. Right, these people were laying fiber because we all said, the demand's there, the demand's coming, the demand's there. And it was, right? It was blowing up. We needed to get beyond the T3 line even. But they built so much that it took 10 years for us to consume it.
I don't know. I think demand is outpacing supply right now.
Today it is. But with this kind of money, Guy.
So can supply then later, because it's all being built out, outstrip demand? Yes, but I just don't think it's a dark fiber situation. It's a different judgment call. But I didn't finish.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because a lot of what's motivating Silicon Valley and Zuck and a bunch of other people we could name is AGI. So, and I'm not kidding, so they can upload their personalities into machines and live forever.
And be immortal.
Not kidding. This is a part of the culture and a part of the planning and a part of the idea. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to do all this stuff.
Wasn't there a movie on this?
And we need AI to do this. More than one, I suppose. But yeah. So like I said, there's just so many threads to pull on this. I've only just begun, but I don't want to take over here. I think that the last thing I'll say is there is this force of gravity, just like there was with the cloud, that all of AI should be in the cloud. All of AI should be giant models. Everybody is just going to use cloud-based AI forever and ever. Amen. And that is just plain untrue. It's untrue today. It's going to be more untrue tomorrow. So the significance of this and the significance of the cajillions of dollars going into this and everything is honestly, folks, really pretty small.
Yep. So let me bring in a couple of other points here. So besides the usual tech billionaire cartel, right? You got Blackstone in here. Now Blackstone's a PE and real estate play. So are they looking at AI data centers as a real estate play? Are they going to invest? I mean, that's where that is. Then you got a relatively small company, CoreWeave. They're throwing in a measly $6 billion. That's why my $20 should count for something, right? They're just putting $6 billion. But this isn't just a U.S. sickness craze going on. We're seeing it around the world. The EU, Macron falls over himself, putting more and more French dollars into it. The Germans, as usual, very miserly giving it out, but they're in there, right? The UK doesn't want to be left behind. They can't just count on their special relationship with us to get it done. Saudi Saudi Arabia, they're building, what is it, Neon or whatever the city is. It's going to be a horizontal city, not a vertical city, and there's going to be all kinds of AI. I mean, they're putting maybe $1 trillion in to building their infrastructure out with this.
And remember our friends at Stargates? Would that be interesting? Just 6 months ago, Trump was hanging out with OpenAI and Oracle and SoftBank, and now they're almost an afterthought. Given the amount of success
they haven't gotten
raising
anything
money.
going in the
No
6 months
traction.
either.
Yeah.
I think
So that's a cautionary tale. That's like something to
that
think
was the
about.
prior diversion.
Yeah, the prior,
right?
yes.
In between the tariffs coming up and down on Taco Tuesday.
I do think they are underestimating the NIMBY factor, though, and I'll give you an example. In Northern Virginia, most of that land around Manassas is a battlefield, and it's owned by an outfit called the Civil War Battle Trust, who pretty much sent a message today saying, you're not getting those acres from us, and if you show up trying to build a data center on it, you'll be on the wrong end of a musket.
So we're going to load our muskets up.
But, there are plenty of data centers in Northern Virginia, though. Let's not kid ourselves. Reston, Herndon, Tyson's, those places are loaded with data centers.
AT&T has one that's like the secretive data center. Literally, they have it's like built on moats around it. They have it.
But even the locals down there have figured this out, and now they're all kind of saying, you know what, we're not going to let you expand data center buildage, because they're like, these things are noisy and they do impact the environment, and people are starting to say, hey, it doesn't do anything for the local economy other than the fact that we built it, and then it sits there.
But it raises the point, though, where if the local electric utility has been their output has been pre-sold to power the data center, are they going to have enough to power my home when it's left over? Because I'm sort of a second-class citizen, because I can't compete with the billionaires. And isn't that really what it's about, right? Are we becoming a country ruled by an oligarchy of billionaires?
Well, yeah.
And that's what and it's not just our AI centers. There's a bigger question here. But we'll answer that another time. We're going to take a break here on The Gang. We'll be back. Let's talk about AI agent autonomy.